Devon Reeves wiped the grease from his hands onto his already stained work pants as the final alert chimed through his small living quarters. The red holographic display floating above his wrist communicator showed a number he had been dreading for weeks now. 3 months overdue. The words burned into his vision like a brand. He had known this day would come, but knowing and being prepared were two entirely different things. The quarters on Orbital Station Meridian 9 were not luxurious by any standard, but they were home. After leaving Earth 2 years ago with nothing but a worn duffel bag and a trade certificate in mechanical engineering, Devon had scraped together enough credits to rent this small unit in the residential sector. The space consisted of one main room that served as bedroom, kitchen, and living area combined, with a bathroom barely large enough to turn around in. But through the reinforced viewport, he could see the endless expanse of stars, and that view alone made the cramped quarters worthwhile. Devon had come to the outer rim territories seeking opportunity and adventure, following in the footsteps of thousands of other humans who had left Earth in search of better prospects among the stars. The promise of good-paying work on frontier stations had seemed like the answer to all his problems back home. Reality had proven far more challenging. Work was inconsistent, living costs were higher than advertised, and the various alien species that populated the station viewed humans with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. His job at the station maintenance bay brought in enough credits to cover basic necessities, but an accident 3 months ago had changed everything. A malfunctioning pressure valve had exploded during a routine repair, sending shrapnel into his left leg. The medical treatment had drained his savings completely, and his recovery time had cost him 2 weeks of work. Since then, he had been playing a losing game of catch-up with his expenses. The door chime echoed through the small space, pulling Devon from his thoughts. His heart rate increased as he stared at the entry panel. He knew who was on the other side. Thessra Voh, owner of the residential complex and one of the most formidable beings Devon had ever encountered. He had only met her twice before, once when signing the lease and once 6 months later during a building inspection. Both times, her presence had been overwhelming. Taking a deep breath, Devon pressed the entry button. The door slid open with a mechanical hiss, revealing the towering figure of Thessra Voh. She stood at least 8 feet tall, her frame powerfully built yet distinctly feminine in a way that reminded Devon that beauty was truly universal. Her skin was a deep violet color that seemed to shimmer under the corridor lights, and her eyes were large and almond-shaped, glowing with an inner luminescence that ranged from amber to deep gold depending on her mood. Thessra's hair, if it could be called that, was a flowing mass of what looked like crystalline fiber strands that moved with a life of their own, colored in shades of deep purple and midnight blue. She wore a fitted bodysuit in dark gray with geometric patterns that seemed to shift across the fabric, accentuating her alien yet undeniably attractive form. 4 arms, 2 primary and 2 secondary smaller ones positioned below, gestured as she spoke, a trait common to her species. Devon Reeves. Her voice was deep and melodious, carrying an accent that made human languages sound exotic and ancient. "I trust you know why I am here." Devon stepped back instinctively, allowing her to enter. She had to duck her head to pass through the doorway, a reminder of how the station's older sections had been built before larger alien species became common residents. Once inside, she seemed to fill the entire space, making his already small quarters feel microscopic. "Miss Voh," Devon began, trying to keep his voice steady. "I know I am behind on payments. I have been meaning to contact you to discuss a payment plan." Thessra moved further into the room, her secondary arms clasped behind her back while her primary arms hung at her sides. Her glowing eyes swept across the living space, taking in the modest furnishings, the few personal belongings, and the general state of organized chaos that came with living in such a confined area. "A payment plan," she repeated, her tone unreadable. "I have heard this phrase many times from many tenants over the years, Devon Reeves. Few of these plans ever come to fruition." "I understand your skepticism," Devon said, moving to stand near his small kitchenette area, needing something solid at his back. "But I am good for the credits. The accident set me back, but I am working extra shifts now. I can start making double payments starting next cycle." Thessra turned to face him fully, and Devon felt the full weight of her attention. Her golden eyes seemed to look through him, reading things he had not spoken aloud. Among her people, the Vohari, it was said that they possessed limited empathic abilities, able to sense the emotional states of other beings. Devon wondered what she sensed from him now. Fear, certainly. Desperation, most definitely. But also determination and pride, the stubborn human refusal to give up even when circumstances seemed impossible. "Your kind fascinates me," Thessra said suddenly, her tone shifting to something almost conversational. She moved toward the viewport, gazing out at the stars. Humans. So small, so fragile compared to most spacefaring species, yet you spread across the galaxy with such determination. You adapt, you survive, you thrive in conditions that would break others. Devon was not sure how to respond to this observation, so he remained silent, watching as Thessra continued to stare out at space. Her crystalline hair caught the starlight, creating small prismatic reflections across the walls. "I have been studying your species," she continued, turning back to face him. "Reading your literature, watching your entertainment media, learning your customs. There is something about humans that calls to many of us in the wider galaxy. A passion, an intensity of emotion and experience that we find compelling." "I am not sure I understand what this has to do with my rent situation," Devon said carefully, though something in her tone made his pulse quicken with an emotion that was not entirely fear. Thessra moved closer, each step deliberate and measured. "I am proposing an alternative arrangement, Devon Reeves. One that would clear your current debt and reduce your future obligations considerably." She stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he had to tilt his head back to maintain eye contact. At this proximity, he could smell her scent, something like copper and rain with an underlying sweetness he could not identify. "What kind of arrangement?" Devon asked, his voice coming out rougher than intended. "There are aspects of human culture, human behavior, human intimacy that cannot be learned from data files and recordings," Thessra said, her primary right hand reaching out to gently touch his shoulder. Her touch was warm, warmer than he expected. "I wish to understand your people better. Directly. Personally." The implication hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and danger. Devon's mind raced through the potential meanings of her words, each possibility more startling than the last. He had heard rumors among the human workers on the station, whispered stories about certain alien species who found humans attractive, who sought out human companions for reasons that went beyond simple friendship. He had dismissed such talk as fantasy, the kind of wishful thinking that happened in isolated communities far from Earth. Now, faced with Thessra's intense gaze and the deliberate nature of her proposition, those rumors suddenly seemed far more plausible. "You want me to teach you about humans," Devon said slowly, testing the words. "In exchange for forgiving my debt. And reducing your future rent obligations," Thessra added. "I am a businesswoman, Devon Reeves, but I am also a being with curiosities and desires. I believe we can help each other in ways that go beyond simple financial transactions." Devon stood in silence for what felt like an eternity, his mind working through the implications of Thessra's proposal. The rational part of his brain screamed caution, warning him about the complications that could arise from mixing business with something far more personal. Yet another part of him, a part he had kept buried under layers of survival instinct and practical concern, stirred with genuine interest. "I need to understand exactly what you are proposing," Devon said finally, meeting her luminous gaze. "You want me to spend time with you, teaching you about human culture and customs. But this goes beyond academic study, does it not?" Thessra's expression shifted, something that might have been approval flickering across her alien features. "Your directness is refreshing. Yes, Devon Reeves, I am interested in understanding humans on a deeper level. Physical compatibility between our species has been documented, though rarely explored due to social taboos on both sides. I wish to know if the stories about human passion and creativity are truth or merely legend." Heat crept up Devon's neck despite his best efforts to remain composed. He had been in relationships before leaving Earth, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for a conversation like this. The power dynamic alone was staggering. Thessra owned his home, stood twice his height, and possessed physical strength that could easily overpower him. Yet her tone carried no threat, only curiosity and what seemed like genuine desire. "And if I agree to this arrangement," Devon said carefully, "what would be expected of me? What are the boundaries?" Thessra's secondary arms unclasped from behind her back, gesturing in a manner that Devon had learned indicated thoughtfulness among the Vohari. I would expect your time, your honesty, and your willingness to share yourself with me. In return, your debt is forgiven immediately, and your rent is reduced by 60% for the duration of our arrangement. You maintain your independence, your work, your freedom. This would be a partnership of mutual benefit, not servitude. How long would this arrangement last? Devon asked, surprised by how seriously he was considering her offer. Until one of us decides it should end, Thessra replied simply. I do not believe in binding others against their will. If at any point you wish to terminate our agreement, you may do so. Your rent would return to standard rates, but your previous debt would remain forgiven. Devon moved away from the kitchenette, needing space to think. He walked to the viewport, staring out at the stars that had drawn him away from Earth in the first place. He had come seeking adventure and opportunity, though this was certainly not what he had imagined. Yet something about Thessra's straightforward approach appealed to him. She was not trying to manipulate or coerce him. She was offering a transaction, unusual as it might be. I have heard stories about relationships between humans and other species, Devon said, still facing the viewport. They rarely end well. Social pressure from both communities, biological incompatibilities, cultural misunderstandings. What makes you think this would be different? Thessra moved to stand beside him, her reflection visible in the transparent material. I do not claim to know the future, Devon Reeves. But I am not proposing marriage or lifelong commitment. I am proposing an exploration, a chance for both of us to learn and experience something beyond our normal existence. Is that not why you came to the frontier? To experience something more than what Earth offered? Her words struck closer to truth than Devon wanted to admit. He had left Earth specifically because life there had felt suffocating, predictable, limited. Every path had seemed mapped out before him, every choice leading to predetermined outcomes. The frontier had promised freedom, possibility, the chance to write his own story among the stars. What about discretion? Devon asked, turning to face her. If we do this, the station is small enough that people will notice. Both humans and aliens. There will be talk, possibly worse. Let them talk, Thessra said, her tone carrying a hint of steel. I did not reach my position by concerning myself with the opinions of small-minded individuals. However, I understand your concern. We can maintain privacy in my quarters. They are considerably more spacious than your current accommodations and located in a section where I control access. Devon felt his heart rate increase as the reality of the situation crystallized. This was actually happening. Thessra Voh, one of the most powerful beings on Meridian Station, was proposing an intimate arrangement with him, a human mechanic barely scraping by. It seemed surreal, like something from one of the fantasy novels he used to read back on Earth. I want one condition, Devon said, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. If we do this, we do it as equals. I know you are physically larger and socially more powerful, but in whatever space we share, we meet as equals. I will not be a pet or a curiosity. If you want to understand humans, you understand us as people, not specimens. For the first time since entering his quarters, Thessra smiled. It was a striking expression, transforming her alien features into something that was both beautiful and slightly predatory. I would expect nothing less from a human. Your species does not bend easily, even when outmatched. It is one of your most attractive qualities. She extended her primary right hand, palm upward in a gesture that Devon recognized as a Vohari sign of agreement. Do we have an accord, Devon Reeves? Devon looked at her outstretched hand, then up at her face. Those golden eyes held something he had not expected to see, vulnerability. For all her power and confidence, Thessra was taking a risk too. Stepping outside social norms, opening herself to judgment from her own people, exposing desires that she normally kept hidden behind a businesslike facade. He reached out and placed his hand in hers. Her palm was warm and slightly rough, her fingers gently closing around his hand with careful control. We have an accord, Thessra Voh. The smile that spread across her face was genuine, lighting up her features with an emotion that transcended species barriers. Joy, Devon realized. She was genuinely happy. The realization made something shift in his chest, a wall he had not known he was maintaining beginning to crack. "Then let us begin properly," Thessra said, releasing his hand. "Gather what you need for tonight. You will stay with me in my quarters. Consider it the first lesson in our cultural exchange. I wish to see how humans adapt to new environments, how you make spaces your own." Devon glanced around his small quarters, suddenly seeing them through new eyes. This place had been his refuge, his safe haven in an alien world. Now he was voluntarily leaving it to step into the unknown. Fear warred with excitement in his chest, but the excitement was winning. "Give me 20 minutes to pack," he said, moving toward his storage compartments. "And Thessra, I appreciate your directness. On Earth, people dance around topics like this for months. Your honesty makes this easier." "Time is precious, Devon Reeves," Thessra replied, settling onto his small couch with surprising grace despite her size. "I have learned that clarity prevents misunderstanding. Besides, from what I have observed of humans, you appreciate knowing where you stand." As Devon pulled out a travel bag and began selecting clothes and personal items, he found himself sneaking glances at Thessra. She sat with perfect posture, her crystalline hair catching the light from the viewport, her expression thoughtful as she watched him pack. There was something regal about her, he realized, something that went beyond mere physical presence. "Can I ask you something?" Devon said, folding a shirt into his bag. "Of course." "Why me specifically? There are other humans on the station, some probably more educated or socially connected than I am. What made you choose me?" Thessra was quiet for a moment, her secondary arms moving in patterns that Devon had learned indicated deep thought among her people. "I have observed many humans since coming to Meridian Station. Most are here temporarily, passing through on their way to other destinations. Others are here out of desperation, running from something rather than running toward opportunity. But you, Devon Reeves, you came here with purpose. Despite your current difficulties, I see determination in you. Resilience. A willingness to adapt without losing your essential self." She stood, moving closer as Devon zipped his bag closed. "Also, there is something in your eyes when you look at the stars through that viewport. Wonder, despite everything you have endured. That capacity for wonder, for maintaining hope in difficult circumstances, that is what drew my attention. That is what I wish to understand." Devon felt his throat tighten with unexpected emotion. No one had ever looked at him with such focused intensity, such genuine interest in who he was beneath the surface. It was overwhelming and thrilling in equal measure. "I am ready," he said, shouldering his bag. "Lead the way, Thessra Voh." As they left his quarters and moved through the station corridors, Devon noticed the stairs. Humans and aliens alike watched as he walked beside Thessra, their expressions ranging from curiosity to judgment. He kept his head high, remembering his condition about equality. Whatever happened next, he would face it with dignity. Thessra's quarters were located in the upper residential section, an area Devon had never accessed before. The corridors here were wider, cleaner, with viewports offering spectacular views of the station's exterior and the planet below. When Thessra's door slid open, Devon stepped into a space that was roughly 4 times the size of his entire quarters. The main living area featured high ceilings and furniture scaled for Vohari proportions, but Devon noticed human-sized chairs and a workstation that looked recently installed. Thessra had been planning this, he realized. She had prepared her space to accommodate him. "Welcome to my home, Devon Reeves," Thessra said, setting his bag down near what appeared to be a guest sleeping area. "The first lesson in our cultural exchange begins now. Show me how humans make themselves comfortable in new surroundings." Devon looked around the luxurious space, then back at Thessra's expectant face. Despite his nervousness, he felt a smile tugging at his lips. "Well, the first thing humans usually do is explore every drawer and cabinet to see what is inside. We are naturally curious creatures." Thessra's laughter was like music, deep and warm. "Then explore, Devon. Everything here is now yours to discover." As Devon began moving through the space, asking questions and examining the alien furnishings with genuine interest, he felt the last of his reservations beginning to fade. This might be unconventional, possibly complicated, certainly risky. But it was also exciting, new, and full of possibility. That, he decided, was exactly what he had come to the frontier seeking. 3 weeks had passed since Devon moved into Thessra's quarters, and life had transformed in ways he never imagined possible. The arrangement that had begun as a practical solution to financial desperation had evolved into something far more complex and meaningful. Each day brought new discoveries, new conversations, and a deepening connection that surprised both of them. The station had noticed, of course. Gossip spread through Meridian like wildfire, whispered conversations falling silent when Devon entered the maintenance bay, pointed stares following him through the commercial sectors. Some humans treated him with barely concealed disgust, viewing his relationship with Thessra as betrayal of his species. Others responded with crude jokes and assumptions that made his jaw clench with anger. The alien population was similarly divided, with some viewing the arrangement with fascination while others considered it inappropriate. Devon learned to ignore most of it, though some comments still stung. He was sitting in the station's common cafeteria during his lunch break when 3 human engineers from the docking bay approached his table. He recognized them as frequent patrons of the bar where station workers gathered to complain about management. Reeves, the tallest one, a man named Carter, said without preamble, "We need to talk about your living situation." Devon continued eating his meal, not looking up. "I do not recall asking for your input on my personal life, Carter." "It is not just your personal life anymore," another engineer chimed in. "You are making all humans look bad. Throwing yourself at an alien for money and housing. Have some dignity." The words hit harder than Devon expected, touching on insecurities he had been pushing down. He set down his fork carefully, meeting Carter's eyes. "You do not know anything about my situation or my relationship with Thessra. I suggest you keep your judgments to yourself." "Relationship?" Carter scoffed. "Is that what you call it? Everyone knows she owns half the residential sector. You are just her latest acquisition, an exotic pet to show off to her Vohari friends." Devon stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He was shorter than Carter, but years of mechanical work had made him strong. "Say that again," he said quietly, his voice dangerous. The cafeteria had gone silent, all eyes on the confrontation. Carter opened his mouth to respond, but a deep voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" Everyone turned to see Thessra standing in the cafeteria entrance. She had to duck significantly to fit through the doorway, her full height making her tower over everyone present. Her golden eyes swept across the scene, taking in Devon's tense posture and the cluster of engineers around his table. "No problem," Carter said quickly, his bravado evaporating. "We were just having a conversation." Thessra moved forward, her presence commanding immediate respect and more than a little fear. "A conversation that required 3 of you to surround one person? How interesting. Perhaps you would like to continue this conversation with me present." The engineers exchanged glances, clearly unwilling to challenge Thessra directly. They mumbled excuses and retreated quickly, leaving Devon and Thessra alone in the suddenly quiet cafeteria. The other patrons quickly found reasons to focus on their own meals, though Devon could feel their attention still fixed on them. "You did not need to do that," Devon said quietly, though he was grateful for her intervention. "I know," Thessra replied, moving closer. Her secondary arms reached out, gently touching his shoulder in a gesture of comfort she had learned from him. "But I wanted to. No one speaks to you that way in my presence." Devon felt warmth spread through his chest at her words, but also concern. "This is exactly what I worried about. People seeing you defend me, assuming I am hiding behind your power and influence." "Let them assume what they wish," Thessra said, her tone firm. "Devon, these past weeks have taught me much about humans, but they have also taught me about myself. What began as curiosity has become something more. I care for you, not as a research subject or a temporary diversion, but as someone who brings light into my existence." The declaration hung in the air between them, stunning in its honesty. Devon looked around at the watching faces, then back at Thessra. In that moment, he realized that he cared nothing for their opinions. What mattered was the connection he had found with this remarkable being who saw him, truly saw him, in ways no one ever had before. "I care for you too," Devon said, reaching up to take one of her primary hands in his. More than I expected to, more than I thought possible between such different species. Thessra's smile was radiant, her crystalline hair seeming to glow with inner light. Then let us stop hiding what we have built together. I am tired of shadows and whispered arrangements. If we are to face judgment, let us face it together, as equals. The word equals resonated with Devon, reminding him of the condition he had set that first night. They had maintained that equality throughout their time together, learning from each other, sharing experiences, building something genuine despite the unconventional circumstances of their meeting. Over the following days, Devon and Thessra made their relationship openly known. They appeared together at station functions, dined in public spaces, and refused to hide their affection for each other. The response was predictably mixed, but something unexpected began to happen. Other mixed-species couples, previously keeping their relationship secret, began to emerge from the shadows. A human woman and her Crithian partner attended the same concert Devon and Thessra went to, sitting nearby and exchanging knowing smiles. A Vohari male and his human boyfriend were spotted sharing drinks at the station bar. What had seemed like an isolated transgression revealed itself as part of a larger pattern, connections forming across species lines despite social taboos. Devon found himself becoming an inadvertent spokesperson for these relationships, answering questions from curious station residents and defending the validity of cross-species connections. It was exhausting and sometimes frustrating, but also strangely fulfilling. He was helping to change minds, one conversation at a time. The real test came 2 months into their public relationship when the station administrator, a stern Vohari named Kelthran, summoned both Devon and Thessra to his office. Kelthran was known for his rigid adherence to tradition and social hierarchy, and Devon approached the meeting with significant trepidation. "Thessra Voh," Kelthran began, his 4 arms folded in a gesture of disapproval. "Your relationship with this human has not gone unnoticed. There are concerns about propriety, about maintaining clear boundaries between species." "With respect, Administrator," Thessra replied, her tone formal but unyielding, "my personal relationships are not subject to station regulations unless they interfere with my business operations or station security. Neither applies in this case." Kelthran's attention shifted to Devon. "And you, human, do you understand the complications you have created? There are those who view your relationship as opportunistic, taking advantage of Thessra's interest for personal gain." Devon met the administrator's gaze steadily. "I understand that some people will judge what they do not understand. But I cannot live my life based on the comfort level of strangers. Thessra and I have built something meaningful together. We have done so honestly and openly. If that makes others uncomfortable, that is their concern, not ours." Kelthran was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, his posture relaxed slightly. "Your courage is noted, human. And your loyalty to each other is apparent. While I personally find cross-species relationships unconventional, I cannot deny the positive impact you have had. The violence between humans and Vohari workers has decreased significantly since your relationship became public. Perhaps seeing leadership from both communities united in partnership has encouraged cooperation." The admission surprised them both. Kelthran continued, "I am not giving my blessing, understand. But I will not stand in your way either. Just remember that you now represent more than yourselves. Other couples look to your example. Do not disappoint them." As they left the administrator's office, Devon felt Thessra's hand slip into his. "We did it," she said softly. "We faced the judgment and survived." "More than survived," Devon replied, squeezing her hand. "We showed them that connection transcends species, that understanding and affection can bridge any divide." That evening, standing together on the observation deck watching the stars, Devon reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had come to Meridian Station seeking opportunity and adventure, running from a life that felt too small. What he had found was so much more than he imagined. He had found purpose, connection, and love in the most unexpected place. "What are you thinking?" Thessra asked, her arm draped around his shoulders. "I am thinking about how far we have come," Devon said. 3 months ago, I was a broke mechanic facing eviction. Now I am standing here with you, having helped change attitudes on an entire station. Life is strange and wonderful. Thessra laughed, the sound warm and full of joy. Life is what we make it, Devon Reeves. And we have made something beautiful together. As they stood watching the stars, Devon knew that challenges would continue to arise. Society did not change overnight, and prejudice ran deep on all sides. But with Thessra beside him, he felt ready to face whatever came next. They had proven that two beings from different worlds could find common ground, could build something lasting and meaningful despite every obstacle placed in their path. That was the true power of connection, Devon realized. Not that it made difficulties disappear, but that it gave you someone to face them with. And facing the universe with Thessra Voh by his side, he felt capable of anything.